been listening with some interest to Christopher Hitchens. Listening to him, I feel a little bit like Winston Churchill during the Boer War. He said it is always exhilarating to be shot at without result. Consider, for example, the primordial cell. If you read Franklin Harold's book, The Way of the Cell, this is a biologist at University of Colorado in Boulder, he describes the cell as a kind of supercomputer. It is of a level of complexity. Even Richard Dawkins in his work describes the cell as a kind of digital computer. Now, the cell can't have evolved because evolution presupposes the cell. Evolution requires a cell that already has the built-in capacity to reproduce itself. So how did we get a cell? The very idea that random molecules in a warm pond through a bolt of lightning assembled a cell would be akin to saying that a bolt of lightning in a warm pond could assemble an automobile or a skyscraper. It's preposterous. Richard Dawkins knows it's preposterous, and therefore when asked, how did we get life originally, he said, well, maybe aliens brought it from another planet. It's ridiculous, but it's, in a way, the best explanation he could come up with other than intelligent design. So there we go. We have the mystery of the cell. But evolution raises further puzzles, because evolution depends upon a universe structured in a certain way. Evolution depends on a sun that's 8 light minutes away. Evolution depends upon the constants of nature. If I were to pick up a pen and drop it, it will fall at a known acceleration to the ground, gravity. The universe has a whole bunch of these constants, hundreds of them. Scientists have asked, what if these constants, on which evolution depends, what if these constants were changed a little bit? What if the speed of light were a little slower or a little faster? This question is addressed by Stephen Hawking in his book, A Brief History of Time. He says that if you change these constants of nature at all, and he's talking about the rate of expansion of the universe, he says if you change that not 10% or 1%, but 1 part in 100,000 millionth million, we would have no universe, we would have no life. Not just Homo sapiens, no complex life would have evolved anywhere. In other words, our very existence here is dependent upon the fine-tuning of a set of constants in nature. We're not talking about just on Earth, the entire universe. This argument, that is sometimes called the anthropic principle of the fine-tuned universe, this has put modern atheism completely on the defensive. Why should the universe be structured in precisely this way and no other way? What is the best explanation? Is there an atheist explanation? I'd like to hear it. Let's move on in thinking about evolution, because evolution cannot explain the depth of human evil. What I mean by this is simply this. Evolution presumes cruelty. Evolution presumes harshness, but it is a harshness tempered by necessity. Think of a lion. It wants to eat the antelope because it's hungry. But have you ever heard of a lion that wants to wipe every antelope off the face of the earth? No. So how do you explain this human evil that far outruns necessity and reaches depths that seem almost unfathomable? Evolution cannot account for rationality, because evolution says we are programmed in the world to survive and reproduce. Our minds are organs of survival. They are not organs of truth. So if we believe in rationality, we require something outside of evolution to account for that. Evolution can't even account for morality. Now, this requires a little bit of explanation. So think of a couple of moral facts. And I'm not talking about heroic deeds of greatness. Think of simple things. Getting up to give your seat to an old lady in a bus. Donating blood. There's a famine in Haiti, you volunteer your time or you write a check. Now, if we are evolved primates who are programmed to survive and reproduce, why would we do these things? There's a whole literature on this, and basically it comes down to this. The advocates of evolution say, well, evolution is a form of extended selfishness. If a mother jumps into a burning car to save her 2 children, that's because she and her children have the same genes. So what seems like an altruistic and noble deed is actually merely a cunning strategy on the part of the mom to make sure her genes make it into the next generation. We're not talking about her Levi's. We're talking about her genetic inheritance. Or evolution appeals to what can be called reciprocal advantage. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. A businessman may be nice to a customer, not because he thinks he's a great guy, but because he wants him to come back into the store again. But these two common evolutionary strategies to explain morality don't explain the three examples I gave at all. I'm in a bus, the old lady hobbles in. She's not a relative, she isn't grandma. So genetic kinship doesn't come into it, and neither does reciprocal advantage. I don't say, well, I think I'll give her my seat because next week I want her seat. No, you give up your seat because you're a nice guy. You give up blood because you want to do a good thing. You donate your time to help strangers who are genetically unrelated to you and can't reciprocate your favors. These are the simple facts of morality in the world. And what is the evolutionary explanation for them? There is none, or if there is one, I would like to hear it. So in debating these issues, very often it's very easy to knock the burden of proof onto the theist and say, you explain everything. But no, in the world we're not in the position where there's only one explanation contending. There are rival explanations. There is a theist explanation, the God explanation, and there is a non-theist or atheist explanation. We have to weigh the two against each other. My contention is that the atheist explanation flounders when confronted with all these facts: the complexity of the cell, the fine-tuning of the universe, the fact of morality, the depth of human evil, the reality of morality in the world. What about the God explanation? Seems obvious to me. It does one heck of a lot better. Why do we have a cell that shows the structure of complexity? Because the cell has been intelligently designed, perhaps by an intelligent designer. Why does the universe show complexity and rationality? Well, those are the characteristics of the Creator who made it that way. Why are there depths of human evil? Because our lives are a cosmic drama in which good and evil are in constant struggle. The Christian story. Why is there morality in the world? Why do we all feel, even when it works against our advantage, a moral law within us? Well, that's because there is a moral lawgiver who gave it to us. So when we put it all together, the presupposition of God is invisible. I concede that. We can't see him. But if we posit him, all these mysterious facts, suddenly the lights come on. It provides an explanation. Now again, with any presuppositional argument, there may be a better alternative explanation. And so I put the ball into Christopher Hitchens' court to say, if you can explain these facts better than I can, I will happily, as a skeptic, concede to your point of view. Give me a better explanation for these facts. I leave you with this thought. Ultimately, we know that belief is good for us. If it was a primitive explanation of 3,000 years ago, why would it be the case that religion hasn't disappeared 3,000 years ago? Why is it the case that we're actually seeing religious revivals around the world? Why is the fact of religious experience? It's almost as if you go to a village and 95% of those people in the village say, we know this guy named Bill. Why? Because we interact with him, we relate to him, we have experience of him. 5 guys say, we've never met Bill, and 3 of them say there is no Bill. The other 95% are making him up. Now, which is more likely? Is it likely that the 3% are right and the 95% are lying or hallucinating? Or is it more likely that the 95% are right and the other 3% just don't know the guy? When you look at the fact of religious experience in the world today, to simply write it off as a primitive explanation of why ancient man couldn't explain the thunder seems idiotically unrelated to the fact that religion serves current needs and current wants. So religion is not the problem. God is not the problem. God is, in fact, the answer to the problem. Thank you.